If you're using the Cherry Garden assessment framework with any of your children, one of the first things you might want to do is make a baseline for them. So this will help you to see where they were when they started with you, and therefore how much progress they've made across their time with you. To do that, you need to be logged into the browser version of Tapestry. You need to click on Tracking at the top of the page, make sure you've selected Cherry Garden, and then go to Baseline Individual View. From there, you just need to choose the child and the area that you'd like to assess right now. You have to do each of these areas one at a time, but you can come back to the others whenever. Once you've done that, you'll see the rest of the form appear. So at the top, you've got your start date and end date, so that's of this baseline period. By default, the start date will be when the first observation was made for the child on your account, and the end date will be 6 weeks afterwards. But if that isn't appropriate for you or for your child, then you can change either of those. So I'm just going to move my end date back a little bit. And if you make any changes of that, just remember to press save. Something to note with it as well, though, is that that period applies to all of your areas, so all of these strands. So it's not just the one that you've got open at that moment. So now let's go and look at the rest of the form. So this is your branch map. As you can see, you've got your branches all the way along the top here, and the actual body of this is, these are the statements. So these are colour-coded. The yellow ones are language and communication, and as you scroll down, you'll see the other colours. What you might also notice is that some of these have an orange bar at the top. That's indicating that an observation has already been made and an assessment has already been made in that statement, and that would have been as part of an observation made during this period. If you click on that, you'll be able to see the observation that it's referring to, or observations. That letter in it, that refers to the refinement. So for me, the S means secure. I've got mine set up as being emerging, developing and secure, but you might have yours slightly differently, so you might not have the same letter. If you're not happy with anything that's showing up already, then that's absolutely fine. You can override it simply by clicking on the tick below the statement and choosing what you want. So that applies to just the refinement itself, but also to the variance. So for here, I can see if I change that, I can select or deselect the refinements. And once I've made any change like that, a little pencil will appear next to it to indicate that it's been overridden. We really recommend that you go through the earlier branches when making your baseline as well to assess the child in those statements. And it might be, especially if you're working in the higher branches, that you want to assess a whole branch at once. So if that is the case, then just click on the top, so you're selecting the whole branch, and then select the appropriate refinement, and then that will apply to everything. Or of course you can do them one at a time if that's more appropriate, or if it's approaching the branch where they're working. So when you're done for the session, just remember to press save to keep those changes. And when you're done completely, so not just with this area, but with all of your areas, and you've saved that, what you might want to do is lock it. So what that means is that no further changes will be made to this branch map, regardless of whether you make any other observations or not. So now I've locked it. If I went immediately and assessed terminates interaction with an adult, that wouldn't show up on this chart. If you found that you've locked it too soon though, you can always unlock it simply by unticking it, and then you'll have your options of whether you want to keep the assessments that you've already made as overrides or use the latest assessments. If you decide to keep them as overrides, then that will mean that everything that's in this chart will stick as it is, and then that will appear with a little pencil next to it, next to all of them. If you decide to use the latest estimates, then anything with a pencil on it initially will stay, but anything that was based purely off observations will be recalculated just to see if any other observations have been made in this period. And again, once you've chosen that, remember to save. The only other thing about this page that you need to know is that you can export it to PDF. So if you want an offline copy, just do that by clicking here.